Good evening, everyone. Today is a special day, the evaluation day. I think for all of us, understanding basic human rights is very important. And we all wait until we grow up to learn our responsibilities and rights. And when you're too old to learn some stuff, you can't actually make changes. So it's important for all of us to develop the leadership skills, understand our responsibilities and rights. It's very important when we do that as soon as possible. Especially, a lot of people have made it to the industry when they started to think like leaders when they were really young. So that can be from the parents or from their teachers or even from their colleagues or their brothers or sisters. So the moment they start to develop this skill at a very young age, they're going to become great leaders when they are in their 20s or 30s itself, rather than waiting for them to be 60s and 70s. So which I love in this program. That's something that I love because now they're able to think more than their current capacity. They're actually thinking 10 years ahead and understanding what's going on. When they look at the society, they know this is what's going on, this is what this person is doing wrong, this is what that person is doing right, but they don't see what's going on because it's amazing. So for me, I feel like I have less knowledge than these students, but anyway, I'm going to watch and learn today. So let's hand over this session to Coach Rasha. Rasha, over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Anderson. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us in our evaluation day. So, before giving an introduction to what we are having in this FB Live today, I'd like to give a brief introduction about the ICP Junior Law Program conducted by the Pufferfish. So, in ICP Junior Law Program, we enroll kids above 10 years of age and where they are taught on the basics of law that includes human rights, the way government works, and oral advocacy as well. So, as the final evaluation of the ICP Junior Law program, we usually have a mooting session, which means a mock court proceeding in very simple terms. So, the students will be given an imaginary case to argue. So, they'll be representing two parties of the case and submit their legal oral arguments. So, in this mock moot proceeding today, we have a case between Youth Leaders Forum versus Infrastructure Development Authority of Fredonia. So, in our imaginary moot problem today, to give a brief idea about which the students are going to moot about in this session. So, in our problem, we have two imaginary countries, namely Fredonia and Ruritania. So, to give a basic background of Fredonia, it is facing a severe economic crisis right now that includes severe unemployment rates, and also they are badly in need for the development in their infrastructure facilities. So by a time like this, a neighboring country to Fredonia, which is Ruritania, is willing to help Fredonia by constructing schools in the neighboring country of them. But there have been multiple oppositions and protests against this issue because the civil societies in the country of Fredonia are considered or concerned about the condition their neighboring country is giving to build a certain amount of schools in their country. That particular condition is if Fredonia wants its neighboring country to help build schools in their country, they have to employ the teachers from Ruritania so that they can work in Fredonia. So civil societies are against this for so many reasons because the Fredonia as a country on its own is facing so much of problems that includes unemployment, and also some other civil societies are concerned about the values or the virtues of nation building being passed to the youngsters of the country, because they feel if the teachers are going to be from the neighboring country, a different country, the students at the young age cannot be taught about the basic virtues of Fredonia as a nation. So these are some examples of the concerns of the civil societies in Fredonia in letting Ruritania build schools in Fredonia. So this is a brief introduction about the moot case or the imaginary case the students are going to argue about. So with the permission of the host today, Mr. Anderson, I'd like to move into the moot directly without further ado. Anderson, can we go ahead?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. So, the court session officially begins now. So before that, a little more notification. In this moot court proceeding, I'll be acting as a judge, and all the students here will be acting as counsels for both the sides of the case. So, which is a Youth Leaders Forum of Fredonia, which has filed the case at the court, and the defendants, the counsels who are going to argue for defendants will represent the country of Fredonia, especially their infrastructure development authority. Right. The moot session officially begins now. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today at our court, we have the case filed by Youth Leaders Forum of Fredonia, and the case has been filed against the Infrastructure Development Authority of Fredonia. So hereby, the court requests the first speaker from the side plaintiff, Mr. Saven Dinsara, to present his speech. And this is to notify Mr. Saven will get 6 minutes to present his arguments.
Your Honor, am I clear? Am I here?
Yes, counsel, you are loud and clear.
Okay. Your Honor and the members of the court, I'm Saven Dinsara, representing side plaintiff on behalf of the Youth Leaders Forum. Three main arguments to express. Council's first argument is about the backlashes caused by the Rotanian people, and Council's second point is about the violation of right to employment. Council's third point is about the environmental impact concerns. Now, Council's backlashes caused by the Rotanian people. The first main sub-point in this point is that the teachers that are going to come from the neighboring country called Latania are going to teach their style, their way that they learned from their teachers and their parents. And instead of our younger generation is going to learn the Rotanian countries history and more stuff like that instead of learning Fredonia's history and many more stuff like that. And your honor, council's second subpoint is about the intergenerational is the principle that takes care of the objects, the items and the properties that the current generation is enjoying right now, so the future generation can enjoy the same way as the current generation is enjoying it right now, your honor. And that principle is being violated because these children in the future will not have any common sense about their country. Like, for example, when one of their friends asks them about, hey friend, what's what's our country's first opponent's name, and when they think about that, they will not have any common sense about their country because the teachers in Retania are going to teach their way and their style to the Fredonian children. And council's third
Counsel, sorry to
sub
interrupt.
point is about the violence.
Excuse me, counsel, sorry to interrupt. I have a small question to
Yes.
ask. So, counsel, I completely understand that by recruiting the teachers from another country, the ability for the younger generation to learn about their own national virtues will be at risk. That is true. But then again, counsel, looking at all the economic crisis that is going through in Fredonia, and since they are looking badly for infrastructure developments, so if another country is offering to help, why should they reject it in terms of building their own economy?
Your Honor, the reason that they should reject it is because, Your Honor, if those teachers come to Fredonia and teach, like I said before, teach their style and their way to the children, their children will be adults and not know anything about the country, and from that the country could go to an even worse situation than they are right now, Your Honor. And the other side of the council can come and say that we could tell the teachers to learn and teach Freedonian people's way. But more than 80 or 70% of the people, of the teachers, will not change their personality and the way they teach because of just another country, Your Honor. And Your Honor, is does that answer your question?
Council, yes, thank you. But along with it, I have another question too. So I understand the importance of protecting the national virtues for the younger generation. So if you are rejecting this particular proposal, do you have any other alternative solution to help improve the infrastructure in Fredonia?
Yes, Your Honor. Rather than taking the offer on building schools, this is just another offer. And Your Honor, rather than doing that, we could just offer and take the money from the other country and build our schools ourselves and take our teachers from the Fredonia country and take the high educated teachers in Fredonia and teach the children their country's way, so the future generation could be much brighter and could go on a higher level than we can ever think. Your Honor, does that answer your question?
Yes, Council. Thank you so much. Please move forward.
Okay, must obliged, Your Honor. And Your Honor, Council's second main point, is about the violation of right to work. Like I explained in the question Your Honor asked, rather than taking teachers from the other country, we can take the more educated teachers in Fredonia and teach the children and all the younger generation. Then they could have a much brighter future, Your Honor. And that's one reason why the right to work is being violated to those teachers in Fredonia, because they don't get to teach their children in their country, Your Honor. And this also violates the right to have a fair employment opportunities because of many reasons, Your Honor, which I will be explaining in a bit. And Your Honor, Council's third main point is about the environmental
Council, just to
impact
notify you, you have run
concerns.
out of time. So kindly conclude your argument within 30 seconds.
Okay. Um, Your Honor, if you do not have any further questions or more further doubts, Council may rest his case.
Thank you so much, Council. So, upon the conclusion of the presentation by the first speaker from side plaintiff, now the court calls upon the first speaker from the side defendant, Mr. Savinu Somerset. Counsel will be having 6 minutes for your speech.
Good evening, Your Honor, and the members of the court. I'm Savinu Somasri from Team Defense, uh, supporting the Infrastructure Development Authority of Fredonia. And the second speaker of our team is going to be Harun Iqbal. Fredonia is an island country which has a similar constitution, uh, similar governing system as Sri Lanka, and the capital of Fredonia is Glasgow. And simply briefing you about what has happened here is uh, the Fredonia is having an economic crisis, and the infrastructure is really low. The development of infrastructure is really low, and the educational system is also collapsing. What the Ruritanian government has implemented for us is that they are going to implement us. They're going to fund our schools so that they could teach us. But the only the only thing, the catch is that uh, the teachers are going to be employed by the Ruritanian government. So the teachers are going to be Ruritanian people. So I'll move to my rebuts. That's a small introduction about the move problem, and I'll move on to rebuts. So as the first speaker of team prosecution said, that if the Ruritanian teachers are going to be uh, employed, they are going to change the way of the so change the culture of the Fredonian people. So yeah, Your Honor, how I'm going to rebut this question is disagree with that, because the government of Fredonia could keep a particular exam, a particular awareness program, selecting the particular teachers which have the such qualities, and we could aware them the way that they like to wear, the food items that they like to eat, and we could even like teach them a little bit of the language, and we could encourage them to teach in the Fredonian way. So that's the way that we could implement a solution for that. And uh, and Your Honor, you asked a question from first speaker of team prosecution, saying what is the way that we can improve the infrastructure problem of Fredonia, and prosecution answered that question as they could ask money from Britannia. So as the agreement, it doesn't say any money in the agreement. What they are saying is they will they will fund schools, not money. They will fund schools so that there is no money involved here. So yeah. So Your Honor, if you have no further questions, I'll move on to my points. Uh,
Please do.
so my first point is going to be in point number 10. In the problem, it says that since the new schools are going to be in the new schools which are going to be implemented by the Ruritanian government are going to be employed by Ruritanian people, there will be qualified Fredonian youngsters left without a job. So, Yana, uh, for this point, what I'm going to say is that we could uh, the education is not the only sector which is available. Therefore, get jobs. There is like there is a lot of other sectors that these qualified youngsters could work in. So, as my first example, these qualified youngsters would work as uh, awareness program coordinators, so that they could give different thoughts for people, because they are qualified with teaching qualities. So moving to my second point, uh, as point number 15 in the mood problem says, if the Britannian education system doesn't show up, it will affect the well-educated people to uh, leave Fredonia. So if this happens, the crisis is going to get bigger, and there is going to be no solution, since the people which are educated are going to leave Fredonia. So what is going to happen here is the problem's going to get bigger. So the only thing that we could do is we could tell the Ruritanian government to fund our schools, so that the youngsters in Fredonia could learn better and uh, make a better future for our country, Fredonia.
Savino, sorry to interrupt again. So you were concerned about the fact that Fredonia is in its dire need to develop its economy, so this help should be accepted, as you say. So, but then again, Savina, don't you think by giving this particular employment opportunity to its own youngsters will also help Fredonia in return in terms of economic development since their income is going to grow?
Sorry, Your Honor, could you please repeat the question?
Yes. So, Savini, what I'm trying to ask is, so you say by accepting this project along with accepting the particular condition, right? You say the economy of Fredonia is going to grow, right? So I'm asking in this same project, if the employment opportunity can be given to Fredonian people, by that term also, the economy of Fredonia can get developed, right? So why don't your government choose that option?
So, Miss, if the people in Fredonia are going to be the employers in that school, if I think that's what Your Honor is trying to uh, say me. So, say council. So, if the Ruritanian people are going to be the teachers in the schools, Fredonia has to be the schools. There is going to be a lot of money which is going to be taken there, since the Ruritanian government won't agree to implement Fredonian teachers as the teachers for this school. Are you satisfied with my answer, Your Honor?
Uh, yes, Councillor, you can move forward.
Much obliged, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, if you have no further questions, Council may rest the case.
Thank you so much, Council. Upon the completion of the presentation of the first speaker from the side defendant, hereby the court calls upon the second speaker from the side plaintiff representing the Youth Leaders Forum, Mr. Fadil Ishan, to present his case. Council, you'll get 6 minutes to present your case.
Your Honor and members of the court, I am Fal Irshan, the counsel for the plaintiff, the Youth Leaders Forum of Fredonia. Your Honor, the council would like to start the speech with some rebuttals against the points that were mentioned by the first counsel of the defendant. So, point number one being that Fredonia should not ask for money from Mauritania, as that's not mentioned in the agreement. Number one, Your Honor, the main reason on why Mauritania is willing to help Fredonia is because it wants to help to like increase and develop its infrastructure. But Your Honor, it can be done in a better way, because if like number one, developing education is also a good thing, but won't also like giving money help grow the infrastructure faster. Whereas if money is employed in here, then agriculture will be improved, and that will further improve the country's economy. And like won't that help rather than like giving teachers? And plus, the Moot problem states that the country Mauritania is keen on gaining profits from another country. So how can Fredonia trust a country by uh, putting like bestowing knowledge on their future generation, depending on a country that wants profits from them? Doesn't it make sense that Mauritania will obviously try to teach its history rather than teaching the Fredonian history, as specifically stated in the Mood problem, that Mauritania is keen on getting profits from another country. So how can Fredonians be sure that their children and their children won't be like very patriotic towards their own country? When another person comes and teaches, when another person from another country comes and teaches a certain country of students, obviously they are going to bring their own culture. And even though the council stated that workshops can be done, that might be an utter waste, because they have come in here in the intention of making profits. So there's no reason for them to come and listen to what Fredonians have to say. And number two is that education is not the only sector that youngsters from Fredonia can work in. Your Honor, the youngsters in Fredonia are also people, and those people deserve a better life and better jobs. So let's say these youngsters are not properly taught, then won't they be like in the lower class in their own country, while other people from other countries are living in a higher class? Isn't that like that's not justice? Like that doesn't even comply with their constitution, and it doesn't even comply with their own basic rights. How can people from another country come and teach the people of the existing country and change their thoughts? Obviously, the youngsters deserve a better education, and if the council states that they can work in other sectors, obviously the other sectors won't be as good as the education sector. So what the Ruritanian government should have done is that they should have employed money. If they employed money, it will also help the educational infrastructure. Because now, if the let's say Ruritania gives money and the Fredonia develops the agricultural sector, then agriculture will be the main source of economy. If agriculture is the main source of economy, they get money from that, and that will also be contributed to the educational sector. So the council's point is that Ruritania should not employ their teachers in Fredonia, as it will like affect the country's future. It's like as if the country is losing its own identity by being behind another country. Another point is that Ruritanians don't have please correct me if I'm wrong, but the council stated that Ruritanians don't have a reason to employ Freedonians when it comes to this educational sector. Am I correct, Anna? Was this stated by the council of the defendant?
You can continue based on what you understood, Council.
Okay, go on. So this was mentioned by the counsel of the defendant, but again, doesn't that feel like that this is putting the Freedonians in a much lower class than the Ruritanians? The people of this country are being put down by other people just because they are looked on by based on the education. And another point is that
Council, I'm
if
sorry to interrupt.
yes,
The
sir.
court very well understands the importance of the protection of national virtues in Fredonia. So it can be harmed by employing foreigners as teachers for the young students. But then again, your council, it is to note you have alternative plans to develop Fredonian economy rather than accepting this particular offer with the condition that is harmful, that is assumed to be harmful by you. So, but then again, those alternatives you propose can take a very long time to be implemented because, as it is stated in the mood problem, Fredonia is currently facing a severe economic crisis. So, it will take a very long time for it to come up and implement all those alternatives if it has any substantial plans. So, in that case, without waiting for such a long time, can't the government accept this offer and go with it, which will help the younger generation in return by giving them more education opportunities? Because if you can see point 12 in your mood problem, it says currently more than 50% of the Fredonian population is illiterate. So can't we up this timely and prompt, offer and go with it for the sake of national development?
Much update, Joanna. So, okay, the council agrees with that, but Your Honor, it's better that the country takes this decision as number one, it doesn't affect the future generation. The whole reason on why Freedon is willing to accept anything from Ruritania is because it wants to develop its infrastructure and to make sure that it serves a better future for the future generation. So if Freedonia accepts an offer which may affect their future generation and which may result in losing their identity, the council thinks that it's better that Freedonia takes alternate methods in developing the country, because even though it may take time, it has less risk, and the less risk there is, it ensures that the country will be able to move forward and to be in a better situation than it is in now. Are you satisfied with my answer on it?
Yes, Council, please go ahead.
And another fact which is
Council,
stated.
finally to notify you, you have run out of time, so please conclude the arguments within 30 seconds.
Okay, Anna. And another point, the last and final point which the council would like to deliver is that the council of the defendant stated the fact that Freedonians can work as educators for the Ruritanian people to be able to teach Freedonians. That is also a way in which like it will decrease like the class of people that live in the country, because now number one is that it has brought up a situation where Freedonians have to look up to Ruritanians in order for a better future. So it isn't fair that Freedonians have work on the Ruritanians to make sure that they will have a better future, because this future is not properly confirmed. So therefore, it's better that Freedonia takes an alternate method, an alternate way of help from Ruritania, rather than depending on their educational system to be brought in Freedonia. With that, may the council rest his case, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Counsel. So, upon the conclusion of the presentation by the second counsel of the side plaintiffs, hereby the court requests the second speaker from the side defendant, Mr. Harun Iqbal, to present his case. Counsel, you'll get 6 minutes to present your case.
Good evening, Your Honor, and the members of the court. I'm Harun Iqbal from the team defendants. So I have 4 points, and first of all, I'll say my rebuttals and then move on to the points. So my first rebuttal is that the first speaker from the team plaintiffs said that the government should take money from other countries and build the schools themselves. But Your Honor, it is clearly mentioned in the moot problem that the country is on the verge of an collapsing educational system, and due to the economic crisis, they are having lack of fundings. So the chances of getting money from other countries are very less. And Your Honor, Ruritanian country was the only country that offered this, but there may be chances other country will offer this, but it's a risk that cannot be taken by the country. So Your Honor, this was the only option for the country. So that's why the Freedonian country accepted this deal. And moving to my points, Your Honor, my first point is I have 4 points. So my first point is that education is an essential need, Your Honor, that is needed for every people, and it helps make people better citizens and get a better paid job, and it helps understand the difference between good and bad things. And through the agreement of ICESCR, the agreement International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. It is mentioned in the Article 13 in the agreement about the right of education. So here the country has fulfilled the rights to education, Your Honor, here, as it is an important need that needs to be fulfilled. And moving to my second point, Your Honor, since the environmental activist groups are concerned about the environment, as it is mentioned in the moot problem, the health of the environment, the government will take the necessary precautions needed to prevent these from causes from happening, like in construction, like reduction in carbon emission by using low carbon materials and minimizing discharge of pollutants. By this, the health of the environment will be less affected. Now, for the third point, it is mentioned that people with proper educations and teachers training are suffering without
Counsel,
job.
sorry to interrupt you regarding the previous point you just mentioned about the environmental concern. So, would you please give us a bit more of a clarification about how this is connected with this particular project?
So, Your Honor, it is mentioned in the problem, moot problem, point number 14, that uh, it they haven't done any environmental impact assessment reports in planning the construction of the school. So, this could affect the environment. Uh, that's why, Your Honor.
All right, Council, please move on.
Yeah. So, as I was saying in the third point, it is mentioned that people with proper education and teachers training suffering without job opportunities. But these people with the qualifications can get income through other jobs like being a teacher in a private school, and like being a tutor where you teach a small an individual or a small group of students and doing online courses. These jobs have huge demand in various countries where online courses is very flexible in education system, and they have learned some common skills like creativity, observations, and communication skills through the teachers training, which is also useful in other jobs of field. So here, Your Honor, there's no it doesn't much affect the people who have studied the teachers training course, but uh, they won't get affected, Your Honor. So
Councillor, sorry to interrupt, there is a kind concern from the court's end. So, we understand that alternative job opportunities can be created for the ones who are affected by unemployment in Fredonia. But then again, there is a significant role to be played by the Fredonian government to make sure that such online and offline other alternative job opportunities are there for their citizens, you know. So government has to play a major role in creating alternative job opportunities if they are giving this particular opportunity to Ruritonian people, I mean the teachers from Ritonia. So in that case, council, looking at the fact that Fredonia as a country on its own suffering from a huge economic crisis, how can it afford to create new job opportunities for the young teachers in Fredonia, since they are going to miss this great opportunity from being employed in the schools built by Ruritania?
so Your Honor, still, even without the government's help, Your Honor, still people can get their jobs. Like there are private institutes and even online courses, that is example in Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, which is which can be easily done. So it doesn't much cost also, so it's not that much of a problem for the government. Does that satisfy the answer, Your Honor?
Uh,
Question.
yes, council, you can move ahead, and by the same time, the time duration is up. So, can you please conclude your case within 30 seconds?
Yes, Your Honor. So as for the point 4, the government also supports the underprivileged people and gives them the necessary education, and they will because of this education, uh, they are well educated, they will be valued and respected. So here the right to equity and right to dignity are being fulfilled, because in right to equity, um, now there's equality among them, because like there won't be any differential problems like uneducated and educated problems that much, and right to dignity where humiliations and these things can be prevented. So with this, Your Honor, the council may rest the case.
Thank you so much, council. Upon the conclusion of all the presentation of cases by both side plaintiff and defendant, court will now take 2 minutes of time for further evaluation of the given arguments and then call out the speakers for their summary speeches. Thank you so much for your patience. And now the court calls upon the speaker from the side plaintiff to present the summary speech. And the speaker, Mr. Fadil Irshan from the side plaintiffs, will be having the opportunity to submit the summary speech. Counsel, you'll get 2 minutes to conclude your summary.
Today, we witnessed the Council effectively rebut the notion that Fredonia should unquestionably reject the educational facilities from Mauritania. They passionately argued that such an agreement where foreign teachers influence the education of our future generations preserves several pressing concerns that cannot be ignored. Firstly, they have emphasized that this arrangement violates the principle of intergenerational equity, as foreign teachers may introduce their own styles and knowledge, potentially diluting Fredonia's cultural and educational identity. This raises serious questions about the right to education and its preservation. Secondly, they've highlighted the critical issue of job opportunities for our citizens, especially our young and educated population, and maybe not educated population, by favoring teachers from Mauritania. The government risks denying employment to our own people in direct violation of their right to work and fair employment. Furthermore, in the face of an ongoing economic crisis, the Council rightly contends that our national interest should be the top priority. Employing foreign teachers instead of investing in local educators deepens our economic challenges and goes against our national interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, counsel. Hereby the court invites the counsel from the side defendants. Mr. Harun Iqbal will have the opportunity to present the summary speech on behalf of the defendants. Counsel will get 2 minutes to present your speech.
So, Your Honor, the first point is that the government is fulfill the ICESCR agreement, the International Covenant on Economy and Social and Cultural Rights, uh, according to the Article 13 in CESCR agreement, and also the government is taking the necessary precautions needed to prevent the health of the environment being damaged. And Your Honor, the like taking low carbon materials and leaving vegetation. And for the third point, like the educated people can do other jobs like being a tutor, online courses, and which have high demands and can learn common skills like creativity, observation, and communication skills. And also, the government is supporting the underprivileged people and giving them the necessary educations by which they will be valued and respected among the society. So it fulfills the right to equality and right to dignity. And it is mentioned that the if the government doesn't accept the uh, agreement, the well-educated people in the country will leave, and the to get countries from Britannia, we can get like trained teachers. And also because of accepting the agreement of Britannia, the economy of the country will grow. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Counsel. The court is very grateful for all the counsels who represent the side plaintiff and defendant today in this hearing. And the court will now require your patience for another 1 minute to conclude all the arguments presented and determine its verdict. Thank you for the patience. The court has taken a deep notice of the main concerns of both the side defendant and plaintiff, where the side plaintiffs were more concerned about the national virtues of the country being protected when it comes to educating the young generation. And also, it is concerned about finding alternative ways to develop the educational sector rather than accepting this offer. At the same time, defendant has concentrated on the importance of economic development of the country Fredonia, and also has signified the importance of accepting this offer so that it could help the education sector in specific to grow in the country of Fredonia. By taking the arguments from both sides into deep consideration, the court has now come to a conclusion to present its verdicts as in today's case versus Youth Leaders Forum, um, in today's case, which is Youth Leaders Forum versus the Infrastructure Development Authority of the country of Fredonia, the side defendants representing the Infrastructure Development Authority of Fredonia wins the case. Once again, the court congratulates the winners and also it renders its appreciation for all the counsels representing their clients today. And with that note, the court is now being wound up. Thank you so much. So, dear students, by that terms, the course session officially comes into a conclusion. So now it's time for our quick evaluation of all of your performance. So before I begin individual evaluations being given to each one of you, I want to honestly say that the total points of the plaintiffs in today's moot is 35 points, and the total points gained by team defendants is 35.5. I can't show that to you. I'm not very sure if you all can see, but it is just a point 0.5 difference. When I was evaluating all your performances during those 2 minutes, before the summary speech, I was in awe because I was scared that it will tally. And when I added it again, I saw it is 35.5 actually. So, which means it's a great sign, which means you all gave a tough competition. I was really happy. And there were several mistakes here and there I want to notify you about in a while. But rather than that, it was a good fight from both ends, since the margin of winning is only zero point 0.5. I might take a photo of this note I have written down and put it in the group maybe, so that you all can believe in what I say. So that's the case for today, right? So without wasting your time, and of the audience, quickly moving into our individual evaluation. So first of all, the first speaker from the side plaintiffs, Saven Dinsara. So Saven, before I give my comments to you, what did you feel about your own performance today? Saven, are you with us? Saven, can you hear us?
Yes, miss.
Right. So can you please express few
Miss,
words as to how you felt about your performance?
yes, miss. Miss, I felt like I had some problems here and there. Yeah, miss.
Can you be specific about where you found things problematic, Saven? Yes, Saven, can you hear us again? Saven, can you hear us?
Yes, miss.
Right. So, can you be a bit more specific about where you felt you went wrong?
Miss, I think in some questions you asked, I didn't give the correct answer. I lagged a bit,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
when it was tough. Yeah.
Right, Sabe. Okay, so let's see. So, as you all know, as it is given in your evaluation criteria, today's mood presentation will be based on was evaluated based on the criteria, which includes marks being given for the knowledge of facts, knowledge of law, handling of questions, style of your presentation, and then organization and time management. Right, all of which are equally given marks. Right. So in that case, about Savin's performance individually, I have to say I can see a drastic improvement from how you performed in the two practice moves we had, Savin. So as a teacher, I was really happy when you opened up the session with such energy and confidence in you. Confidence, I have to highlight. I can see that in you because in the previous moods, the confidence in you was not that visible, about which I kept emphasizing. So in today's final session, I was happy that you have worked on it and you had a flow of your speech coming naturally. So you didn't have confusion about what to talk next, and you didn't have confusion about how to continue the speech soon after the questions I asked. So you had that flow in your speech, which is really good, Sabe. And also at the beginning, you divided your points, which made things clear for the judge that we are going to talk about this, and after that, the second point, and then the third. So even though you let time, you didn't have sufficient time to cover it all up, since you introduced your main points at the introduction, the court can still recognize that you had an argument under a particular topic, even though you could not discuss it due to time restrictions. So it was a good goal that you introduced your points at the beginning itself, right? So kudos to that. And then I was concerned about only two things in your presentation, Savin. Other than that, I was highly satisfied because as a teacher, so when comparing to the audience, I have a little bit of more analysis to do because I can compare your previous performances to this. So I have seen you in the debate workshops before, which I conducted, and also I have seen you in the practice moots, and I have also seen you engaging in the classroom activities. So comparing to all of it, today your performance is really good. So I was happy. So as I said, I have only two important points to notify you about. The first one is about repetition, Savin, right? Certain words and certain points you kept repeating, right? So, and there was a bit of a lag in between, right? So it's not that you forgot the point, the words didn't roll out in certain times, right? That you can be more considerate about. The only solution I can refer is to doing more rehearsals. That's the only thing that can help you out to reduce this, um, drawback. And then the second thing is the posture, Savin. So this has been a problem in previous practice modes as well. Comparatively, you have improved, but still the problem with the posture is there, right? So even though you sounded confident, the confidence cannot be visible in how uh, made yourself appear. So I wanted you to be a bit more stiff in front of the camera, facing it with confidence. So only a little problem was there in your posture, but rather than that, your confidence level was okay with how you presented your case orally, right? So yes, Savin. So apart from that, I have nothing else to say, but to congratulate on your hard work and performing this really well in this final mode. Good job, Sunny. Right. So with that, moving on to the evaluation of the first speaker from the side defendants, that is Savinu Somasiri. Savinu, again, generally a good job done. So I was impressed by the way you presented the facts because no one in the mood today presented the facts in your case referring to the mood points. So in the lessons, I kept emphasizing that whenever you refer to a particular fact in the mood problem, if you refer it with the mood point, the number, the paragraph number, it will give a good impression to the judge that you know what is in the mood problem. The only one who followed that in our mood today is Savino. Others did follow it, but only when I asked questions. So more generally, it was followed by Savino. So good job done there because even though you know the facts, all of you guys really know the facts. You have to give the impression that you know the facts. No? So in case of me being your teacher and evaluator as well, I know you have knowledge in this. But if it's going to be a third person who is going to judge you, you need to give that impression that you have gone through the mood problem. So that is done well by Savino. And then you started with a brief introduction, which was good because I was initially concerned about the time limit because if you are going to give a big introduction, it can cost you a lot of time. But you tactically made it really brief, but to the point. It was impressive. So you gave a basic brief of the mood problem as the first speaker from the side defendant, which is good, right? And then you moved into the rebuttals. So rebuttals was good, and when you spoke about the alternatives programs which could be made to make sure the national virtues are passed down to the generations, it was really innovative points because it was then argued against by the team plaintiffs in their rebuttals. So that particular, the scope of argument was created by you as a speaker. You came up with the point that alternative measures can be taken to educate, younger generation on the national virtues, even though Ruritanian people are employed as teachers in the schools. So that argument was opened up by you, which was continued to be dealt about in the by the following speakers. So that was a good opportunity made by you as a speaker. So good job done there. And then furthermore, answering the questions, Savino, you did well, but then I want to see a bit more of a confidence and substance in what you presented. Even though you had an answer, the confidence and the substance was a little low. And both to Savin and Savino, I have to say, the relevance you all made to law was comparatively low than I expected. So the amount of time you spent discussing about the legal principle, the human rights, was less, right? So it was visible at the beginning of Savin's speech when he spoke about human rights, introduced the point of human rights. But in Savino's speech, it was severely lacking. You had so many factual arguments, Savino, but no particular reference being drawn to legal principles and arguments such as public trust doctrine, social contract, about which all you are aware of, and then no reference was done to any international conventions, other legal concepts as human rights. So I know you all know it, you're trying to connect it in your factual argument, but it was not visible enough, right? So in that terms, I want you to work a bit more. And then at one point, you called the judge as miss, and it was a genuine mistake, and then you corrected it again. But you can keep working on it, right? Other than that, your overall style and the way you presented and the way you dealt with the facts was really good, right? The factual argument was impressive. You've got a good score for the knowledge of facts criterion, right? So wishing you the best,
Thank you,
Savina.
Miss. Thank you, Miss.
And now moving on to the second speaker from the side plaintiffs, that is Fadil Ishan. So Fadil, first of all, kudos to the way the rebuttals were done. A great job, very innovative points. I, as an evaluator, had to think a lot, analyze a lot to understand which points they are connecting. At the same time, I was really surprised that we were able to connect all those points within a very short period of time when the other speaker was speaking earlier, because it is a rebuttal, right? So the rebuttals was extremely good. I loved each of the rebuttal. I have written them down. But then again, the same story, all your rebuttals were factual arguments, which is okay. But nowhere along your speech, any specific legal reference was made. As to international conventions, even the constitution, because in the Moot problem, we see that the Freedonian constitution is same as the Sri Lankan constitution. And I have specifically stated chapter 3 of the Sri Lankan constitution, which speaks about fundamental rights, is similar to that of, Freedonian constitution. So they have similar set of fundamental rights. I was very worried that no one of you spoke about it. So it was only Harun who spoke about one international convention, which I was really happy about because he mentioned the specific relevant article. But then again, none of you spoke about the fundamental rights of the country of Fredonia. You could have referred to the Sri Lankan constitution with that regard. I was really looking forward for it, but no one spoke about it. It was a good opportunity. You could have argued more. You could have scored more for the criterion knowledge of law. So generally all of you scored a bit more, less in the criterion, the knowledge of law, except Harun, right? So you'll have to keep working on it. So then again, Fadil. So the first thing is rebuttals was awesome. Legal reference was not there. That is a drawback. And number 3, as I keep saying you, yes, Fadil, you have something to say? Yeah.
Actually, ma'am, I had more points with me which had like references to other agreements and stuff, but I just went too fast and I was so into rebuttals that I wasn't able to deliver those points.
Exactly. That is what I'm trying to say in my third point of my evaluation, Fadil, which is, the usual thing I keep saying this to you, to prioritize your points. I know so much of points and arguments pops up in our heads when things are going on in the mood. But again, you have to stick to the reality that you cannot discuss all the points. It is impossible. So that is a talent of a mooter, again, to prioritize your important points and only argue about them, even though you have plenty of points. That's a challenge. That's the main, one of the main activities mooters has to tackle and come up strong. So it's there you lack. So compared to the practice moods also, Fadil, you had the same problem there too. So here also, I know that you got carried away with the rebuttals, but then again, it is a drawback. You have to work on it because see, even though you have got good points in terms of your rebuttals, you have scored well in certain criterion. When it comes to knowledge of law, it's going to be very low because judge will not give his a benefit of doubt to you that this guy knew things but didn't have time. Not not all the judges will give that benefit of doubt. No, so even being a teacher of you, knowing that you know law, I can't give the score for you for the knowledge of law at a very higher level because I know you did not deal about laws. So you have to be very realistic. First, acknowledge, Fadil. The advice I can give it to you is accept it, acknowledge that there are plenty of ideas coming up in my head. Okay, that is wonderful. But then again, acknowledge the reality. I can't speak this all off. This cannot be done. So you have no other option. Stick to that reality and acknowledge it. And then, okay, so I'm going to speak about only 3 important strong rebuttals, but I'm going to do really well in them. Even though I cannot include everything, I'm going to do really well in the ones I'm going to choose and prioritize. So acknowledge it and stick to the reality. That particular consciousness will help you to prioritize your points. You get what I mean, Father? Yeah? That particular sense of acknowledgement can help you in your future performances, right? Yeah, that was the problem. And in terms of time management, same thing. You allocated all your time for rebuttals, so you couldn't deal with the main points, which shows, you know, the lacking skill in you in managing your time. The judges will consider it that way, right? So you have to be a bit more careful in that. But then again, I have to mention this as well. In your summary speech, you try to balance by telling out the specific points you had, but then again, summary speeches are not evaluated. So sadly, that is not going to work, right? Other than that, overall, a good performance, Fadil, and special mention for your great rebuttals and speed thinking, quick thinking, I must say. And now, moving on to the final evaluation of the day, individual evaluation for the second speaker from the side defendants, Harun Iqbal. So, Harun, I must say, among all the speeches done today, you scored the highest. And the margin of difference is very, very small among all the speakers. Everyone got above 17. And the difference of marks is really, the margin of difference is really small. But the highest speaker of the mood session today, I must acknowledge, it is Harun Iqbal. And as I always say, I love the phase of your speech, Harun, the speed of your speech. It is very apt, and the pauses you take up and the time you take to move to another point, you take a breath. And then again, it's not really laggy, also. The balance you maintain, it is naturally in you, and I always appreciate it. Just like that, you did the same today. So, congratulations on that. Second point I have to say, you had the best structure, right? So first he said that he'll deal with rebuttals, and then he said he'll have 4 points to discuss. It was very clear. That is good. And then about rebuttals, right? He was very strategic there. If you have done it, unconsciously, or even for me, it looked very strategic because he only had, if you all have noticed, he only had one particular line of rebuttal. Harun, you had only one particular line of rebuttal. Conclusion that Fredonia has no any other option than to choose this. That is what he said. Fredonia doesn't representing the state, defendant said, representing the state, the defendant Harun said that Fredonia doesn't have any other options than to accept this particular offer because of these reasons. For me, it sounded very strategic because it covers up all the other arguments made by the plaintiffs. Even though it is very cliche, for me as a judge at that moment, it felt like, all right, even though this is one big rebuttal, it covers up all what is said by the other speakers from the side plaintiffs. Because the problem in Fredonia is very severe and they are pushed to a position, to choose this even though it has disadvantages. And then during his argument, he tried to establish that even though there are certain drawbacks like environmental impacts and all, Fredonia is going to try its best to balance it off. And he established Fredonia has an international accountability to work towards the educational development. So to do that, Fredonia is forced to accept this offer. I loved the way the rebuttal was done, Harun. It was very strategic, and it consumed very less time. So he did not do more. So what saw was, even though he might have had so many rebuttals, I assume that way, he came to one conclusion that he's going to talk about it, but in a very strong way. So kudos there, Harun. It was a great thing to see as a judge, right? And then moving on, in your first point where you spoke about the educational needs of Fredonia, you first emphasized the general significance of it. That was interesting, and I couldn't see that being done by any other speaker today, because he first talked about why education is important in a very general sense. So that reinstilled the significance of education in me as a judge. Even though I know education is important, since he came up with the general importance of education, it reinstilled in me that okay, this is really a big thing. I have to look at it. So that is how I felt as a judge. So he gave a basic introduction about the importance of education, but then again, he didn't spend much time. We have to be considerate about that also. No? And then he referred to the International Convention, ICESCR, International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And he specifically talked about Article 13, which is about right to education. The only international convention which was referred throughout the mood today, right? So good research being done there, Harun. And then about the only, I had a problem only with your way of tackling the question. So I was asking about the job opportunities. So you said alternative job opportunities can be created. So then again, I asked that even to create such alternative job opportunities, the government has to play a role. So that was my question. So for that, you answered that even without the support of the government, people can, explore and get more job opportunities through online. So that answer was not actually satisfactory, Harun. It was a bit disappointing because, as the government under public trust doctrine, it has the responsibility, you know, to create jobs, even if it's going to be online jobs, starting from giving awareness to the people about the online opportunities, building infrastructure capabilities in terms of internet access and all to all the citizens. If the government is not going to do it, people can't access to alternative jobs online. Do you get what I mean, Harun? So government has a role to play there. So my concern was in this severe economic crisis, how Fredonia is going to manage to create these alternative job opportunities. That was my question, which was not addressed well by you, right? That was the only concern I had. Other than that, time management was fine. And overall, a very good presentation, Harun. I was really very happy as a teacher. And your summary again, it sounded really brief, and it was nice to listen because you were not rushing. You had a particular phase of your speech, speed of your speech, and you are to the point. You know what you were saying, and that made me listen to it even with more interest. So kudos there. Many congratulations. Right. So, guys, with that, my evaluation comes to an end. So, overall, as a teacher, I'm really happy. So, I thought after the evaluations, I'll discuss a bit more about public trust doctrine and the relevancy of social contract to our mood problem. But due to the time restriction, I cannot do it here. Maybe some other time, if you all are available by any chance, because I know you all are really very busy with school and exams. If we can't find any time, we can just come up very casually and speak more about this particular mood problem, relating it to human rights, public trust doctrine, and much more legal concepts we have learned about, right? So if you'll have time, we can do that. And with that, I'll wrap up my presentation of evaluation. Thank you so much for making me proud today. Anderson, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Rasha. So that was a very insightful mooting session. And I can understand, even if I miss a small sentence or even a word, I might be missing a lot of them. So intensive listening is there, and making sure that, I just want to know what are some techniques you have used when you were coaching them, because I can see like a completely different version of them before this program versus now. So if you have like maybe the top three or something, I think That would be amazing.
Sure, Anderson. The first one I'd say I made sure that they know know the law. So I spent quite a lot of time explaining them the concepts because it's very complicated and a very delicate thing to handle because the legal concepts are being explained to the kids is to be done very carefully. So I relate to many practical examples as possible to make it relevant to them. That is number one. Number two is when I coached them on mooting, I wanted to make them feel as lawyers. So they are basically lawyers representing their clients. No matter what, they have to safeguard the interests of the client. I tried to instill that particular feeling in them. Number three, it's all about practice. Before us coming here today, we had two practice moves done. So I gave them evaluations and made sure they had their own practice sessions. And I have to notify here, I did not help them at all to present this mood today. Nothing at all. I only gave them the mood problem, the imaginary case, and they worked on their own. Not even a single minute spent with them to help them out. So I wanted them to be very independent in this and made sure they had as much as practice as possible. Those were the three key points, I guess.
All right. Thank you so much. And we have Shuhaib as well. Shuhaib, do you have any final words to share before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much for having me on this amazing feed. I would like to congratulate Miss Rasha and also the awesome foes who have been working on this for a very, very long time. I've been observing very closely in terms of their development from right from the very beginning as a communicator. Nice to see you all, boys. When we first met, there was hardly any signs of your age or your maturity anywhere. It was all fun and laughters and giggles, but now I'm sure it's more of haha than anything else, right? Now their voices are also cracking, so it's amazing. Thank you very much for letting me be part of your progress and your thinking, your learning curve, everything. I would like to rebuttal this. I would like to listen to a few rebuttals from the learners by saying, like, if I say your coach is a horrible coach, your coach is a very horrible coach, how would you relate to that, Mr. Fadil Irshan? What would you say to me? I say your coach is a very horrible coach. Your law coach is a horrible coach.
I'll rebut that by saying that you don't have the same experience that I do.
Okay, valid, fair enough. Good statement. How about you, Fisher Harun Iqbal? I believe that your coach did not do a good job in motivating you.
Should share the same experience to understand.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm not coming from the same perspective. Good. Saven Dinsara and Savino Somasiri. What do you all have to say? Anything to defend your coach? Let's start with Savino.
She helps us in every way that she can. Not in the final move that we did, but before. Like, she gave us every single place there which we went wrong, and she told us how to make it right. And yeah, she's not a very horrible coach. She's a very good coach.
Okay, all right. Saven Dinsara, what do you have got to say? Maybe Saven's feed's a little slow. Saven, are you back?
Yes, sir. Sir, to every is done to us, and even Miss has followed up and encouraged us, even when she was sick and when she was in the hospital. So if you have to miss, like, help us in every moment as she can, rather than saying that, just just you have to listen to what Miss says sometime. Like, how do I say? Something like that.
Okay, I get your point and I get your idea. I have a challenge to throw all of you all. Don't be selfish. If there's one powerful thing that you can learn from your coach, is to be selfless and not to be selfish. Okay? Knowledge is power, and the skills that you have learned is also power. I need you to directly message me after convincing one of your friends, minimum, and a maximum two of your friends to join the law program, so that you will have some commonality and you will be able to go further. It's a challenge I'm giving you. Because if you can do that, it means you're also partaking in what type of learning you have got, and you want the learning to go further. Your journey has only begun, and I am jealous of you because I never got anything like what you are receiving. And the truth is, the world is talking about what is happening here. Not in terms of likes, but in terms of conversations. There are screenshots of you all on blog posts. There are lawyers who are in the Sri Lankan fraternity talking about what's going on. And I know very well that they will see 10 years from now leaders who are actual action takers and solving real problems, regardless of the industries that you all are going to be in. It doesn't matter. I'd like to end with a small quote of what Martin Luther King Jr. had given an audience. Even if you were to sweep streets, sweep them streets so well that long before you're gone, people would claim that town and say, in this town lived a great street sweeper. It doesn't matter what you do, how big it is, or how small it is, but do it so perfect, so amazing, so well, so dedicated, that long after you are gone and you're no more on the face of this earth, people will still talk about it. That's the only message I have for you. And I hope we all live that way. So wish you all the very best, and wish you all the very best to have civic, real thinking, real world situations and problems to solve. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much, Coach Racha. Thank you.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you so very much for being here. Anderson, we are sorry. I think you're muted.
Oh, yes, very good. Okay. So thank you so much for to everyone whoever joined in between. So it was a very long, detailed mooting session. So a lot of people try to stick around. They try to get as much information as possible. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people whoever joined the live got inspired. They have seen how in detail they have researched about it, how much time they have spent. So even Coach Rasha was hospitalized for a couple of days or weeks, and still they were able to pull this out as a team. So I'm really happy that I was able to get some time to be a part of this, and then to understand what's going on and see how far this discussion is going and evolving. And great to see the growth. This is like the A team. I think all of us should be a part of this team as well. Okay, so with that being said, see you all on the next live or another mooting session. Have a great night, everyone. Bye bye.
Good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you so much,